They are unanimous in their hate for me, and I welcome their hatred.
Yo, what is up, everybody? This is Hater Radio. My name is Chris McLean. I'm here with my co-host Ian Gibson. Ian, how are you?
Doing really good, really good.
Hey, so this is week 3. We're doing the preview show, so we're gonna break down all the big games. There really hasn't been any news in the last couple of days. I haven't seen an announcement who officially is going to be the starter for Florida as of right now. It is like back and forth between Mertz and.
I heard it was Mertz.
What did you hear?
I heard it was Mertz. So what Napier said was it's pretty much going to be the same situation as it was with Mertz healthy, which means Mertz will be starting with Lagway in certain packages.
Well, the other thing that I saw, though, that might lead me to believe that there might be some change or possibility of change is the fact that Graham didn't get officially out of the concussion protocol. So the last couple of days, DJ has been taking a lot of first team reps. So if that's the case, there is a good possibility, it feels like, that DJ could start. Not that it's going to happen, but there's a good possibility that he could. And if then, we'll see what happens from there. But like you said, it seems likely that even if Graham does start, that DJ should get some playing time. I would hope so, considering that he performed so well last week against Samford. But regardless, let's jump into it. Before we jump into it, though, let's do the socials. So you can reach us at haterradio.com for all of our articles. All of our socials, the main ones are X, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram. And that is at hater_radio for those. For Facebook, it is Hater Radio CFB. And then for YouTube, it is at Hater Radio. Ian, what are your socials before we begin?
It's at Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram. It's at G_Gator_G.
Okay, that's how you can find us. Chat us out. Comment, like, subscribe, follow. Get us in the algorithm. Just get us going. It does a lot for us. If you just any little thing, it really helps. It's beneficial, and we've been getting a lot of subscribers lately. We're up to around 450. We started this season at 197, so that's like 250 already in like 3 weeks, which is remarkable. So we're moving quick. The video that we did the other day that I posted, it is a like a little trailer of the bigger one that I'm going to do in the next couple of days from the Alabama USF game. It's on all the formats. You can find them there. And losing my camera. Hold on a second. Okay, sorry about that. Just having issues with my camera. I think it's either a temperature issue or a battery issue, or maybe a combination of the both. So, so you can catch the video. It's the Alabama USF game. We had a lot of fun. So check that out. And then let's jump into it. So this is week 3. This is the preview show. Every Wednesday we do the preview show, and it airs 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific on YouTube, Facebook, X, Twitter, and Instagram. So you can find us there. So let's get into it. So There's actually quite a bit of games. I'm surprised how big the schedule is for this week for how many good games. And starting off with one of your teams, Ian, Texas State, Arizona State going up against Texas State. It's a sneaky good matchup. I'm intrigued to see what happens here. I don't know too much about Arizona State outside of the like gimmick offense that they ran last year with Scadaboo. But they did beat Mississippi State pretty handedly though in week 2. So maybe they have enough offense here. Seems like Kenny Dillinger, who was the OC at Florida State for a time, maybe has something going there. This Texas State team is riding high after that demolishing of UTSA. What are your thoughts, Ian?
Yeah, so for this one, I'm very high on Texas State, especially after the last game with UTSA and Arizona State's game against Mississippi State. Really showed how balanced they were, both running it with Scadaboo and passing with Levitt. I think, though, that Texas State is going to force them into a game they're not going to be comfortable with, and that's going to be a shootout. Arizona State, they did blow out Wyoming to open the year, but when it comes to like these shootout games, I know last year they lost to like Arizona when Arizona was just throwing it all over the yard. Same with Oregon, but that was kind of expected. And I think Arizona or Texas State's going to do exactly that and force them into a pass heavy situation, which they average more run than pass usually. So I'm going to take in this one. I'm going to actually think Texas State's going to pull off another win. And I don't know if it would be one of their first, it would be their first win over a Power 4 team in a long time. But I think Texas State wins it in a shootout. I'm going to go with a 38-28 win for the Bobcats.
Okay, so I had to jump to my webcam because the regular camera is having issues. I'm going to have to figure out because we had issues the other day where it wasn't even working. So, which is concerning because it's a really expensive camera and that's not good because I, really do like the look we get from that camera. But okay, yeah. So who did you have? Sorry, I was in the middle of that. I didn't even get.
You're good. I had Texas State winning in a shootout. I'm going to go with the Bobcats winning 38-28.
And I'm going to lean more on you because you know Texas State better than anybody. And the only thing I know about Arizona State, like I said, is how gimmicky they were last year. I didn't get a chance to watch their game from Saturday, so I don't know how good they are. But I'm going to say it's going to be a close one. But I'll say Texas State wins. I'm going to say Texas State wins like probably 34 to like 31, something like that. Okay, another Arizona team. Arizona going up against Kansas State. Interesting matchup. Kansas State has a lot of hype to be one of the better teams in the Big 12. Arizona's right there as well, potentially. They have a lot of talent. Their quarterback is very strong. They have one of the best wide receivers in the country, and that kid that's a freak. I mean, he just catches everything. So, this Kansas State team, they survived Tulane last week, and they probably should have lost. They were behind like the entire way. I haven't seen much out of this Arizona team. They, coming into this game, I'm trying to see their schedule real quick.
They didn't look good against NAU, I'll tell you that.
So they played New Mexico the first week and then Northern Arizona last week. Yeah, I mean, they put up points the first week, but then allowed a lot. Last week was better defensively, but they scored very little. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know what to make of this team. I think I like this Kansas State team better just because of they survived that Tulane game on the road, which is a tougher game than either of the games that Arizona played. So I'm going to say Kansas State wins this game, probably like a 28 to like 24 game. What do you got?
Yeah, in this one, I think K-State's going to find a way to win. Arizona, like I mentioned with the Arizona State Texas State game, is Arizona's built on the passing game. Fafita and especially McMillan, the wide receiver, one of the best combos in the country. But they're very, pass heavy. Usually that is their main strength, and it works well. But as you saw, it's got wrinkles into it. The offensive line is very weak right now, and Kansas State can pressure the heck out of a weak defensive line. And I predict Kansas State might get a touchdown or put points up on defense, and that's going to be the turning point, like it was against Tulane. So I'm going to take Kansas State winning. I'm going to go with a 30-21 win for the Wildcats of Kansas State. Let me be more specific there. They're both Wildcats.
They're both Wildcats. Okay, next one we got, because both those games are, one is Thursday and the other one was Friday. So those are the early games in the week. And then we have the early Saturday games, which is Alabama going up against Wisconsin. Watching that Alabama team last week against USF, and they struggled for 3.5 quarters to really get the ball moving. Is this Wisconsin defense better than this Alabama team? Better than that USF team? I think it's possible because, Wisconsin traditionally has a decent defense, regardless of who the coach is. They have a tough schedule, Wisconsin, coming up the next 2 weeks, because they have this game, and then 2 weeks later they have USC. So they're definitely going to get tested here. They did not look that great against South Dakota, and they didn't look that great against, I think, William Morris. Is that WMU?
Western Michigan, yeah.
Oh, it's Western Michigan. Sorry, yeah. Duh. So maybe the offense is probably their struggle, which, I believe that Alabama's defense is going to be solid. They played really well against USF, but USF was able to move the ball. They just couldn't punch it in when they needed to score touchdowns. I think this Wisconsin team can hold Alabama to like 24-27, but that's going to be too much for Wisconsin to overcome. I don't think they're scoring more than 17. So I'm going to go like 27-17. What do you got, Ian?
Yeah, I think Alabama actually will be able to put enough points on the board to where Wisconsin just can't hold on, because that's what we saw, is that the defense of Bama was still, as wrinkled as it was able to get the stops when it needed to. And with how, spread the USF offense is, I don't think they're going to have any trouble with Wisconsin. I think Wisconsin, they're averaging they're balanced, but not in the good way. Like they maybe average 200 yards each way on both the run and pass. But I think with this one, Bama will just have the better team, and they're going to win. I think it will be close in the first half, but Bama finds a way to cruise to the end. I'm going to go with a 31-17 win for the Tide.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like Wisconsin's going to be able to score enough to really put a scare into them. Okay, next game we've got is Memphis FSU. So this FSU team is coming off of 2 losses, and they looked terrible on offense in both those games. Defensively, they didn't look much better. They probably looked worse. I don't know. They're both sides of the ball. They struggle. Like we said, we're not fans of DJ Ugalele. He seems to be, about the same that he's been his entire career, and that's been average at best, considering he was a 5-star, number 1 overall recruit coming out of high school, and he's just been, sub average. Average is probably the best word to describe him, because he still can put up yards, but he doesn't put up, his games are like a 15 out of 29 passing for 215 yards and a touchdown. That's literally his output every game that he plays. If you look through his career, his game log, it's that's the same stat line every single time. So I don't expect them to score a lot. I expect FSU to score at most 24. Memphis, they didn't put up a ton of points against their first two opponents, but I can still see them scoring like 35 maybe. But I think this might be closer, and I'm going to say like Memphis wins like 29 to like 22, something like that. What do you got?
So in this one, and you said, Ukulele has been average, and I think that's the nice way of putting it. Just the offense in general has not been clicking as it was last year. And like I said, that comes down to just a lot of these guys are playing their first starts together. The chemistry is not there as it was last year. So there's a lot of growing pains, obviously. I think this one, though, the interesting thing to note is that Memphis defensively, I know it's only been 2 games, but they rank, I think, in the top 25 in total defense. And you could see Florida State when they play, Georgia Tech pretty solid on defense. Boston College, obviously, pretty solid on defense. Florida State has struggled. The problem is that Memphis's offense isn't as good as those teams. So I think this one's going to be a real snail race. I think it might be a bit messy, but I think in the end, closely, the Seminoles, based on talent, pull it out. This is a game where just talent alone finally falls on Florida State favorably. So I'm going to go with the Seminoles on this one. I'm going to go with a what would be an ugly score? 23-21. Yeah, 23-19.
Okay. Speaking of an opponent that just beat Florida State, Boston College going up against Missouri. Interesting game because Castellanos, that's how you say his name, right? The quarterback?
Yeah, Castellanos.
Yeah, so he's not like the biggest arm, but he is solid in the passing game and very athletic, so he can make plays on the ground. So that gives a lot of versatility to their offense. They run the ball. They do a lot of RPOs. They were very effective against Florida State. And, they could have scored 35, but they kneeled down on the last drive inside the 10-yard line of Florida State. So, 35 output was pretty good game. Should have been, but it was obviously 28. But regardless, they are a strong offense. They should be able to move the ball. Missouri's offense is really good, and I'm envisioning at least 30 points out of Missouri here. I think that Boston College, though, is possibly going to get 28 or more because new defensive coordinator for Missouri. They have not been tested yet. They have played 2 weak opponents so far. This is their first tough any real opponent, and I believe BC is ranked. And so
24 in the nation, yeah.
Yeah, so this is the first real tough opponent for Missouri. Can they actually compete here? I think that Missouri's going to win, but I think it might be close just because of Missouri lost some players as well from last year defensively, so they may not be as strong. They still have some guys, but they're not as top tier as they were last year. So I'm going to say Missouri wins 34 to let's say 27. What do you got?
Yeah, I think this one's going to be real close. And I think it's going to come down to defenses. I think when I was doing my homework, Missouri does currently have the #1 defense in the country because they haven't allowed a point all year. Back-to-back shutouts against Murray State and Buffalo. Credit, very weak opponents. But still pretty impressive that you don't allow a point so far in the first 2 games. Boston College, though, I think that will be the difference maker, though, is that Boston College has been in a tough environment. They had to go to Tallahassee on Labor Day. It was a primetime game, and everybody was favoring the Seminoles, and they were able to quiet that crowd. I think they're going to try the same game plan. I think they're going to try to, use Castellanos on those boot plays and play keep away. But I think Missouri's offense is more cohesive than Florida State's. So I think Missouri's going to be able to take more advantage of the limited time they will have. So I think this one's going to be real close, but I think Missouri pulls it out in the end. It'll be 1-score game. But I'm going to go with the Tigers going, I'll go 28-24 Missouri.
Okay. All right. Moving on. Notre Dame, Purdue. Notre Dame coming off the loss to Northern Illinois on a last-second field goal. This Purdue team has only played one opponent. They They beat Indiana State 49-0. I don't know how good this Purdue team is, obviously playing a lower level team like Indiana State. Do they have enough to pull off the upset against Notre Dame? I think it's possible. I don't know if we'll know how good this Purdue team is until the next couple of weeks when they play Oregon State, Nebraska, and Wisconsin. But this is a good start to see where they're at. I feel like Notre Dame is good enough to bounce back from that loss last week. Yeah, it was a tough loss. Their offense is trying to figure stuff out. And maybe this Northern Illinois team is one of the better G5 teams that we don't know of until the end of the year. So we may have to fast forward to see what we actually know about them. But as of right now, I feel like this Notre Dame team is probably adequately ranked. I think anywhere from like 18 and below and like maybe like just unranked is a good spot for Notre Dame. I don't think they're a top 10 or top 15 program right now, our team, but I think they're good enough to be just outside the playoff, potentially playing for a playoff spot if they do well enough. I feel like Notre Dame should win this one. So I'm going to say Notre Dame's going to win like probably 24 to like 21. What do you got?
So for this one, I'm actually going to call the upset on this one. I think Purdue can get it done.
There you go.
Hudson Card was really good. The only reason Hudson Card is not at Texas right now is because of Quinn Ewers and Arch Manning. That's it. He was not putting him on the same level, but he was very good at Texas, and he is carrying it over here in Purdue. I think he's an excellent quarterback, best quarterback they've had in years. And I think he gets it done. I think Purdue, it's more also, too, that Notre Dame hasn't, even with the A&M win, their offense has been very, very pedestrian at best. Riley Leonard, as good as he is, they've kind of given him this very, like, one-dimensional, play-action at best, 5-yard dump-off offense. And that just isn't working right now, especially in these games. So on the flip side, Purdue can run that kind of offense, probably lean more to the pass, but I think Purdue gets it done and they put up enough points to where Notre Dame just can't catch up. I'm going to go with the Boilermakers winning. I'll go 27-23.
Okay, 27-23. That sounds about right what the score is going to be, regardless of who wins. Oregon State. So, this rivalry game used to be at the end of the season, but for whatever reason, they moved it up because of the Pac-12 basically being dissolved. So, I know Oregon State is undefeated, and Oregon struggled the last 2 weeks against Idaho. No, was it Idaho?
It was Idaho and Boise. So
and
Idaho
State.
teams are not like
so.
Those Idaho teams are not friends to Oregon.
No, well, they're right there. They're right there on the border, so it's not that far. But let's see. Oregon State has played.
I think they played San Diego. They played San Diego State last week, and I think they played Idaho
and they won
State
21-0, and then they beat Idaho State, another Idaho team. They beat Idaho State 38-15. So, I think this might be another game that Oregon struggles. They seemed to score a lot of points last week, but again, those points came in 2 special teams plays with Tez Johnson getting a punt return, and I can't remember the other guy's name for the kickoff return for a touchdown. So they're expecting a lot out of Oregon. It was a very thought of pick in the beginning of the year to be a potential championship caliber team, at least get into the Final Four, maybe the championship. I don't think Oregon State's going to like dominate this game, but I think they're going to be able to be solid. It is a home game for Oregon State, so Oregon has to go to Corvallis. I still think Oregon wins this one, though. I think Oregon wins this one just barely. I'm going to say they win like 28-25. What do you got, Ian?
Yeah, this one, if it is not put up or shut up time for Oregon, because you had your 2 layup games and you won them. Congrats, but you didn't look good. You cannot sleep on this game because it is your biggest rival, Oregon State, who will always circle you on a dartboard. So you cannot sleep on this one because they will come out and they will bite you. So I think Dan Lanning, he's a good coach. He knows that. He knows going in there, they cannot just sit around and just keep their foot off the gas until the fourth quarter. So the one key here is going to be the rush defense for Oregon. Oregon has given up chunk play after chunk play all on the ground, both of those 2 games. The key here is that is Oregon State's bread and butter right there. Griffin, the running back, I think he's over 200 yards already. And Hankerson as well, the other running back. It's very good 1-2 combo on the ground. So that's really going to be the tell-all of this game, is how well the rush defense is for the Ducks compared to the Beavers' running attack. Because if that happens, the playbook opens up for Oregon State. I think, though, in the end, Oregon gets their act together. They know it's a rivalry game, and they cannot drop this one. They cannot play like they did the first 2 weeks, whether it be the bad offense from Idaho or the bad defense against Boise State. So I think Oregon gets it together, and the Beavers give them a scare. But I think Oregon will win the Civil War. I'm going to go with a 30-17 win for the Ducks, or whatever they're calling the rivalry now.
I don't think it's Civil War anymore. It was for a long time, but I think like the last couple of years they got rid of it. Tulane, Oklahoma. Tulane coming off that near miss against Kansas State. I like the quarterback for Tulane, Mensa. Mm-hmm. He's wiry. He's like elusive. He's got a good arm. There's a lot to like about him. Oklahoma has been kind of underwhelming, especially that Houston near miss. They barely won 16-12 against them. They looked better that first week, but I don't know. Maybe this is a game that Tulane gets them, and I'm going to go. This will be my upset. You had yours. I'm going to have mine. Not that we don't have just one, but I'm going to say it here. I'm going to say Tulane wins. I'm going to say Tulane wins like 31 to like 24. What do you got, Ian?
I think with this one, Tulane is still one of the best group of 5 teams in the entire country. I believe, though, on the road is where they have really struggled. We remember how they gave Ole Miss run for their money in 2022. But away from the road against Power 5 teams, I don't think they have won a road game against a Power 4 team in a couple. I'm trying to remember the last time they did, but it does not pop out of my head that they have done that. So I think with this one in Norman, I think Tulane won't be as rattled as, say, other opponents, especially with how much of a tough time they gave K-State. But I just think Oklahoma will find a way to win it. I think Tulane makes it close to the beginning. But, again, this might be a thing where just Oklahoma has the better talent. So I'm going to go with the Sooners winning. I'm going to go with a 35-20 win for Oklahoma.
35-28?
35-20.
20. Oh, you think it's going to be a 15-point game?
I think Oklahoma just pulls away in the end because Tulane still hasn't been able to tell me they can close games out.
So like a late score, you're saying?
Yeah, like it's 28-20, and then with 2 minutes left,
that makes sense.
Runs it in or something.
That totally tracks. Okay, getting into the teams we cover, one being the Florida Gators. I switched the lights, so if you are watching this and you only want to watch the teams that we cover specifically, make sure to look for the lights. Florida Gators, obviously blue and orange. USC, red and yellow. UCLA, light blue and gold. And USF, green and gold. So that's a way to know when we're talking about those teams. And if we're not talking about those 4 teams, it'll just be like a basic like white and black, so that you'll know when to like switch those to the go through the video. So anyways, Florida coming up against Texas A&M. it's a home game, 3:30. I don't know. They gave Florida all these 3:30 games for these big matchups, and it's still smoking hot in the Gainesville Sun. So I don't know. I mean, like we've talked about this. I said it last week on the preview show that I felt like DJ Lagway needs to be the starter if Billy wants to have success at Florida this year. And there's a good chance that he doesn't make it out of the season if he struggles in this game, the whole team, and Billy will get fired soon. So I don't know. A lot of fans on Twitter X love to think that he's going to be fired, and they welcome it. I will say Twitter X is the vocal 10% of the fan base, while the most of the fan base probably is not as adamant about his firing. I think they're willing to give him another chance into next year, which I honestly feel like he should be given that, considering how talented DJ Lagway is and how much talent there is with the receivers, the running back room. There's talent on defense now. If they can just piece the defense together, they will be a better team. But the defense is still struggling. The offense is, uninnovative, not very creative, just very blasé. And, just like I said, it needs the threat of the run with an RPO style action with DJ Lagway. Graham Mertz does not bring that to the table. He's not super fast and athletic. He is mobile in some aspects. He can get a first down if needed, but Graham is nothing like DJ, who can run all over the field and just run through defenders. This Texas A&M team lost to Notre Dame. They came back last week and won pretty big. Their defense is probably going to be their strongest suit because of Elko comes from the defensive side of the ball, a defensive coordinator at Texas A&M before he became the Duke head coach. Connor Wegman for Texas A&M, I'm underwhelmed by him. Like, he was a 5-star huge recruit, and he's just not done anything that amazing. Hasn't really beat anyone anytime big, I don't think. And he's also been, inaccurate at times. I like Florida to be able to, if DJ does play, we talked about this, that DJ might get some playing time. If he's able to get some movement there, and if Graham does play, maybe Graham can get into a flow as well. If not, it'll be a long day. They're probably going to be able to, they're going to struggle to run the ball against this stout Texas A&M defense, which, is not a good sign because Billy likes to run the ball. I'm going to say, I don't know. This is a tough one. I thought Florida was going to beat Miami and they got smoked. I'm going to say it's going to be a close game. I'll say probably, a late field goal wins it, which Trace Mack and the special teams are right now the number one special teams in the country to some of the ratings. So you've got that going for you, considering how bad the special teams was for so long. I'm going to say Florida wins like 27-24, late field goal wins it. What do you got, Ian?
Yeah. So funny story. Thinking back of this game, I remembered, I was thinking, is this the first time A&M has played Florida in the Swamp? Because I know they played each other in 2012 and then in the COVID year, and then obviously Napier's first year in 2022. And then I remembered, oh yeah, they did. It was when they were wearing the gator skin uniforms. Yeah. And I remember why I forgot, because I tried to forget we wore those. Anyways, just a fun little thing. The one good news now, Texas A&M's defense is solid, very good. Yeah. The one good news, though, is that out of the passing and defensive categories, A&M has actually averaged more rushing yards. They've been worse against the run than they have the pass. Against the pass, they're one of the best in the country. But against the run, they have struggled. So there's Florida's, bread and butter right there. So when it gets down to it is how well will the run actually work? We have seen when they play tough defenses that if the run gets snuffed out, it throws a monkey wrench into the whole offensive play calling, and they become very predictable and very anemic. So that is going to be your storyline of the game right there. How well can Florida run the ball early in the game before they can start, becoming too predictable? So, man, I'm with you. It goes to the same thing though. I think it's going to be close because really both teams can win this. But I just feel like, again, Florida hasn't proven it to me that they can win a game like this. So I think as close as it'll be, A&M, let's just put it like this, A&M put up a better fight against Notre Dame than Florida ever did against Miami. So I think A&M finds a way to sneak out a win in the Swamp. I think they'll win. I'll go close. I'll go 24-20 Aggies.
Well,
Please
the one
prove me
thing
wrong.
the one thing I was going to say is, it's, this Texas A&M team, like, how good are they really even? Because last year they were kind of mediocre, and this year they lost to a Notre Dame team that just lost to Northern Illinois. And, so how good are they? Like, Florida only beat an FCS team and then lost to maybe one of the better teams in the country in Miami, maybe even a potential ACC champion team. So I don't know. I mean, I think there is a lot on this line on the line in this game. I feel like Billy probably knows that too. Defensively, they have to have a good game. They really do, or it's going to look ugly. Okay. Let's move on to Washington State, Washington, another old school Pac-12 rivalry, only existing now in non-conference games. This Washington team, I haven't paid attention to them too much since the start of the season because they were playing terrible teams. But I'm curious to see, this iteration with Jed Fish running the show after DeBoer went to Alabama. They had okay games where they were pretty much in control of both of them against Weber State and Eastern Michigan. But those are like easy games that they should win. Nothing crazy. I don't know what their outlook is the rest of the year because they have only really like their back half of the schedule is difficult. The front half is really easy outside of the Michigan game, but they have Michigan, Iowa, USC, Penn State, UCLA, Oregon. So that's kind of a tough schedule the second half of the season. The first half is relatively easy. This Washington State team, obviously being left behind and, being a forgotten team, which it's terrible because this Washington State team over the years, if it were the Rose Bowl appearance in 98, 97, or if it was, when the Pirate was there, it's a shame because this program is a very well thought of program considering it's a small school in the state of Washington. It's not like Washington where it's in Seattle, in a large city, in a large metropolitan. Pullman, Washington is a small town, and I'm pulling for them. I hope they can figure it out, and I hope they get into a good conference. But I feel like Washington's going to win this. I'm going to say Washington wins like probably 28-17. What do you got, Ian?
Yeah, I think with this one, Washington, obviously, these games always produce fireworks when it's the Apple Cup. But I feel like Washington's defense is really going to be able to tell the story of this game. They've only allowed 12 points for the first 2 games. Credit, again, weaker opponents. But Washington State did get a big win against Texas Tech last week. So there's a lot to be said there. I think, though, with Washington in this game is that the defense will be able to really put a stop to Washington State's attack. Washington State has not played a defense like Washington. And Washington has one of the best defense. When it was even at the old Pac-12, they were always known to have a pretty solid defense. It's just the offense wouldn't catch up. Now that they got Will Rogers at quarterback, I think that'll help out as well. So I think the Huskies pull out in this one. I'm going to take them winning 34-24 in the Apple Cup.
Nice. Okay. Next game, West Virginia Pitt, the backyard brawl, as it used to be known. I don't know what it's called now.
I think it's still called that.
What?
I think it's still called that.
Yeah, I think it is. West Virginia beat Albany last week 49-14 after that loss to Penn State in the first week. Pitt is 2-0. They beat Cincinnati the second week, and Kent State the first week. Yeah, Cincinnati win was very close. They definitely stayed in that and got that field goal late to win it. So this is an evenly matched game. I think these two teams are pretty similar in a lot of ways. I like West Virginia's quarterback. I don't know too much about Pitt. I think that West Virginia can win this one, but it's going to be close. I'm going to say like a 24-20 game. What do you got, Ian?
Yeah, this game, I mean, it is one of the most underrated rivalries in college football, and it is an absolute crime they don't play each other every year.
Yeah,
and that goes back to when the Big East dissolved and we had they just went to conference. These teams play each other every year because it's always fun, always heated. It's the definition of college football. With that, you're going to have a lot of emotion. It's going to be a really insane game, as it always is. I think, though, I agree. I think West Virginia will win this one. Pitt should have lost that game against Cincinnati. They were lucky to come back. They got the last second field goal, but they did. They got the win. It is in Pittsburgh, but I think West Virginia pulls it out in the end. I think they just have a better balanced attack on offense to counteract Pittsburgh's defense. So I'm going to take the Mountaineers winning. I'm going to go with a 30-27 West Virginia.
Okay, Utah State. We're going to do this one quick because Utah State's not very good. I'm just curious because Cam Rising, does he play or not? I don't think he plays because I don't think they need him in this game. They might as well save him for the games coming up. So I'm going to say Utah still wins this one. It's probably going to be like a 17-7 game. What do you got, Ian?
Yeah, I think same thing. It might be a bit of an ugly one, especially if Cam Rising is not playing, but I don't see – I mean, Utah, it is a rivalry game, but I don't think they fall into the bear trap as bad. So I'm going to go the Utes winning. I'll go let's go 27-10 Utah.
Yeah. Okay. Next one, Ole Miss, Wake Forest. Ole Miss coming off 2 tomato can victories, and Wake Forest lost to Virginia last week by one point, and then beat NCA&T the first week. So they're 1-1. It's it's at Wake Forest. Ole Miss has a relatively easy schedule the entire year. I think if they want to really start showing that they belong, they need to demolish this Wake Forest team because they have really tough games. LSU, Oklahoma, South Carolina, Georgia, Florida. So they need to show that they're up there with these top echelon teams. I think they win 45-20. I like Jackson Dart. The kid's really solid. He's just consistent. He's some games he doesn't put up a ton of air yards, like passing wise, but he'll get it on the ground, or he's very instrumental in their ground game, and that's where they can dominate. I think Ole Miss, like I said, 45-20. That's what I got. What do you got, Ian?
Yeah, this one, Virginia's defense has been very. I know they played good their first game, but they couldn't hold the fort against Virginia last week. So with Wake Forest, now you got to go with Ole Miss, arguably the best offense in the country, or one of the best offenses in the country. Good luck, man. So I'm going to take the Rebels winning. I think they pull away. I'll go 41-20, 41-20, almost the same as you.
Nice. Real quick, UTSA, Texas. What do you got?
Yeah, definitely burst the bubble a bit with Texas State blowing out UTSA, and with Texas looking like one of the best, if not the best team in the country. Yeah, I think Texas finds a way to get it done. I think this is actually going to play similar to how Bama was with USF. Maybe UTSA makes it closer than they should, but overall, Texas has the better team, and if they have to, they can wear UTSA down. I'll go 38-14 Longhorns.
USF, Southern Miss. I'm going to let you go first.
So this game, I've been saying since the beginning of the year, this is going to be kind of the tell-all game of how this season can go, because first game of the year, USF plays Bethune-Cookman. They're better than Bethune-Cookman. Then they got to play then they got to play Bama. Real upheaval right there. So this is the one where Southern Miss and them are at pretty equal eye levels. Tate Rodemaker, the quarterback at Southern Miss now, obviously memorably the emergency QB for Florida State last year. He's at Southern Miss. This one, though, again, it's going to come down to how much USF's defense can stop and limit mistakes. As I said last week and against the Bethune-Cookman game, they gave up way too many penalties than they should be comfortable with, which kept drives alive, which kept, obviously kept Bama from scoring more. Southern Miss, they got shut out against Kentucky, and they won last week, but they won 35-10, so it wasn't as bad against Southeast Louisiana, but maybe should have seen more. I think I'm going to go with USF winning this one. I think it's close in the first half. I really view this as kind of a copy and paste game from the UConn game last year. It's close, but up until the end of the third quarter, USF finds a way to make the big plays. I'm going to go Bulls winning. I'm going to go 35-20, especially if they can finally open the playbook up for Byron Brown, hit him with those read options, make that defense scared of whether he's going to run or pass, uses linebacker as a spy, opens up Sean Atkins on the slant routes.
Yeah, I think the most disappointing part of last week was Byram's inability to hit those open receivers on those routes. And if he had been able to hit them, there was a point in the game, I rewatched the game on Monday night, and like if he hit some of those receivers, like the one, what's his face, Michael Vincent, or what's that kid's name? Brown Vincent.
Yeah.
The receiver, I can't remember his full name, but he had a couple of, points where he just totally beat the DB and was wide open, and Byram just barely missed him by a yard or two. Like if he takes like a little bit off of like both of those passes, it's like right on him, and he's still running on both of those. And the game's completely different if they're actually putting a scare into Alabama. We don't need to relitigate that game. It is what it is. I'm just more into this next game, which hopefully during this week, Alex Golish has made an emphasis on trying to get more touch on those passes where he does have the receiver open. Once like they said, if he's even, he's leaving. And so once those receivers are even with those DBs, they're basically gone. And so Byram needs to be able to hit that. It's timing, and like touch on the ball as well. And if he's able to get those in sync, then this offense is way more dangerous than what it was against Alabama, which it still played well, but it's like you have to be able to hit those passes to be what Alex Golish wants out of this offense. I feel like the defense is transferable to week. They can play up to that standard like they did last week. Southern Miss is way less of a talented team than Alabama. I think they're going to be able to, prevent Southern Miss from doing much of anything, if at all. Rodemaker is a terrible quarterback, and Southern Miss only had 5 rushing yards against Kentucky, so I don't expect Southern Miss to run the ball at all, considering that Alabama was barely able to in those 3.5 quarters. And if that's the case, they're going to have to rely on the pass, which they might be able to do some things, but USF was able to get in the backfield against Bama, which I feel like they're going to be able to against Southern Miss. So Rodemaker is going to be under pressure, and I expect at least a couple of turnovers from Southern Miss. And so I'm going to say USF probably wins like 34 to like 17. Okay, moving on to the next game, which is Georgia-Kentucky. We don't have to spend too much time on this because I know how bad Kentucky looked last week, and I'm not expecting Kentucky to do well. But Georgia has not allowed a touchdown so far this year. Does Georgia continue the streak, or does Kentucky get that touchdown? What do you think, Ian?
Let's put it like this. Kentucky couldn't even get a touchdown on South Carolina.
Yeah.
So there's your answer. Georgia, I mean, dude, yeah, I would be surprised if Kentucky can get double digits in this game. I will be surprised. That would be my upset of the week right there.
Yeah.
I think this is this is just going to be a buzzsaw going into Lexington.
Yeah.
As good as I think Kentucky can be, I mean, that was just such an epic faceplant against South Carolina, and it kind of was very deflating.
Yeah.
Now, right after that, you got to go against you got to go face this absolute machine in Georgia.
Yeah.
So I think the Bulldogs win it, and they win it handedly. I'm gonna go. Let's go 38-3. Bulldogs.
Yeah, I'm gonna say like 45-6. They'll get 2 field goals. Okay. UCLA, Indiana here in LA. I'm not gonna be able to go to the game because I have a union stuff I have to do with my local, and so I won't be able to go. But I expect this game to be a pretty solid game. Indiana is not a terrible team. They're like a below average Big Ten team, so they can beat most of their non-conference because they play a lot of terrible non-conference teams. So they'll probably be like fighting for a bowl berth. But this UCLA team has a solid defense. They played really well in that first game against Hawaii. I think the offense started to find things out as they got through into the second half. It was the first game under a new head coach, new offensive coordinator. You kind of expect some bumps in the road. They usually say first game to second game is the biggest improvement for any college team. I expect that to be the same as well. I expect UCLA to win. I'm going to say like 27 to like 18. What do you got?
Yeah, I agree. I think UCLA, I think this game's actually going to be a lot closer. I think these teams are very even. Indiana has a very good balanced attack on offense, but UCLA's defense is really underrated. We've talked about it for years. They have one of the best defenses in the country. So I think with this one, Indiana has not played a defense like this. Obviously, they started against FIU and then Western Illinois. So I'm going to go UCLA winning this one. I think it's going to be close, maybe last second touchdown or field goal, but I think UCLA wins it. I'm going to go 27-24 Bruins.
Okay, moving on. Last 2 games. Northern Illinois going up against Nebraska. So this game probably we never would have talked about unless last week happened. So now you have this team, Northern Illinois, G5 darling. Camera now.
Chris, Nebraska's playing Northern Iowa.
Oh, well, I was totally wrong. So all I saw was NI. I didn't see it was on what is it? The NCAA website.
Yeah, Northern Illinois they're playing I think they're off this week.
Okay,
yeah, they
hold on
are. They play Buffalo.
Okay, I got to pause. Okay, so my mistake. It was not Northern Illinois. It was Northern Iowa.
Yeah, Panthers.
Okay, so it doesn't matter. So Nebraska should roll, considering they beat Colorado last week. Let's move on to the last one, and then we'll call it a day. UCF TCU. I'm intrigued to see if this UCF team is any good because obviously they're playing Florida in a couple weeks. So, this TCU team, I haven't really looked into a ton because they were kind of mediocre last year after going to the national championship game. This year they have come in and they beat Stanford and they beat LIU. I don't even know who that is. And
that's Long Island University. That's the Sharks.
Okay. So yeah, exactly. So the Stanford team is not very good either. So these victories are not that amazing. UCF can say the same with their victories. They're not huge victories as well. So does this UCF team have enough to make it into the Dallas-Fort Worth area and pull off the victory? I think they can. KJ Jefferson is capable. He beat Florida in the swamp. Their running back situation is one of the better running back rooms in the country. Harvey is a stud. But passing attack is not the best. I think that's where they lack. If TCU can force them into a pass-first offense and take away the run, I would just stack the box. I would put 7-8 guys in there and force Jefferson to throw. I'd put 8 in the box and then have a spy and then force him to throw. And he's not that strong of a thrower. And, you can get picks off of him. And then defensively, I don't think they're that strong defensively. I think TCU could put up some points. So I'm going to say TCU wins 31-24. What do you got, Ian?
So I think with this one, now here's some context. UCF, I know it was their first year in the Big 12 last year. They beat one Big 12 team on the road. And I might have to put an asterisk on it because it was Cincinnati. Yeah. So non-transition from American Conference team, they have still yet to beat an original. Well, TCU isn't even original. They came in from Conference or Mountain West, but I would say that is something that's like a monkey on UCF's back. But I honestly think UCF could pull it off. Van Jefferson is one of the best quarterbacks in the country. He's super.
KJ Jefferson.
KJ Jefferson. I got Gators on the mind right now.
Yeah.
I think KJ Jefferson, obviously, he's got the talent. Can definitely keep TCU off balance with the option attack. So I think UCF gets it done, and they pick up their first. Well, actually, their second Big 12 win in their first, in my opinion, traditional Big 12 opponent. So I'm going to go UCF winning in a close one. I'll go with a let's go 28-24 Knights.
Okay, that is the show, everyone. We'll have the recap on Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. It's on all the formats. So it's on X, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. And for the socials, for X, Twitter, Instagram, Threads, and TikTok, it is at Hater_radio. For Facebook, it is Hater Radio CFB. For YouTube, it is at Hater Radio. Ian, what are your socials before we go?
Yes, my socials at Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter are at G_Gator_G.
That's the show, everyone. We'll talk to you on Sunday. Enjoy these games and take care.